Good morning. Happy Sunday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. It is Sunday Fun Day, Jared, because we got week 3 of NFL football season. And this week, it's kind of like pick your poison. You want rocket ships and fire and excitement? Let's check out the Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. You want revenge? Carson Wentz taking on the team that drafted him. You like the greatest of all times? Talk about Aaron Rodgers taking on Tom Brady. How do you feel heading into Sunday on week 3? This is crazy that we're already here.
Yes, we are. We have arrived. Good morning to you from your
We've
hotel
arrived.
room in parts unknown. Beautiful.
We are at the Best
Raleigh,
Western,
North Carolina.
Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina at the Best Western. This hotel, let me tell you, is the worst Western. It is the worst Western, but it's okay.
I wanted to make sure you got that one in. I wanted to make sure I teed you up for that one because I know you were plotting that one all morning.
Yeah, that was like you held that out on a tee for me, and I just hit that. It was a home run.
That was the first thing we heard from Lauren this morning was her best Western, worst Western joke. Luckily, they're not a sponsor of the show. But that being said, the actual sponsor of the show, Superbook Sports, I was scouring some of the lines this morning, and I was scouring some of the, the way that the lines are moving, the percentages. This is going to be a very unique day. So I think this is the first day that we've really seen everybody start betting this side and the other. So the reason is because we've seen these things for a couple of weeks, and you could start to see there are some desperation spots, and there are some spots that teams really look good, and other teams maybe don't look so good, and it's great. Just be careful. That would be the only question or the only advice I have for people today. If it looks too easy, it might be. And that is NFL betting 101. And now we can maybe move on to actual games so we can offer some real hard advice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I was saying this earlier, too, on Pickswise Playbook. Speaking of the sponsor of the show, Superbook Sports. You love to see it. On our Pickswise Playbook show, I talked about week 1. We see the teams for the first time that season. Week 2, there's a lot of overreaction after seeing week 1. And then week 3 is when we kind of level out. So it's going to be interesting. Are the Eagles as good as they looked last week? Are the Dolphins as good as they looked last week? Are the Colts as bad as we've been seeing? Lot of different questions heading into this week. Are the Bengals going to win a game? Are the Titans, are the Raiders going to win a game? We're going to dive into it all. So without further ado, let's get it. Let's bet it. First of all, injury updates. Feel like we always have to start the show with this, right? Some key ones to keep an eye on. Titans edge, Bud Dupree is hip. He will not play in week 3 against the Raiders. Both of these teams 0-2. Both of these teams really need a win. And we're going to get into that game in a second. Another one, Bucs head coach Todd Bowles said Julio Jones with his knee will probably be a game time decision for week 3, so we'll see how that goes moving forward into the game today. And then Packers head coach Matt LaFleur said he has no idea if David Bakhtiari with his knee is going to be playing in week 3. If those guys can't go for the Bucs and for the Packers, how does that impact that game with them going head to head against each other today?
I think Bakhtiari is very important. I mean, Julio Jones is obviously important too, but we've seen the Bucs win without Julio Jones. We've seen the Packers really struggle with their offensive line without their 2 foundational pieces, Jenkins and Bakhtiari. Jenkins came back last week. The Packers running game looked fantastic. They covered the spread against the Bears on Monday night. Now if they get Bakhtiari back, and he's been basically his face has been on a milk carton for the last 2 years. Yeah. But if they finally get him back, then all of a sudden the Packers offensive line turns into a unit that is maybe the best offensive line in the league. Definitely in the top 5, top 10. So I think that's a huge, and you know me, Mr. Offensive Line. I love handicapping the O-lines and the defensive lines. Yes. I think that's where it all starts and finishes, is in the trenches. We love to talk about the skill position guys because of fantasy football and such and the prop markets. But at the end of the day, who wins the game tends to rest on who wins the trenches. And if the Packers because the defensive line for the Bucs is formidable, maybe the best in the league, they're going to need every able-bodied man to be healthy on that offensive line for Green Bay. That's going to be a war today. You want to talk about a game that goes against the normal script of what we think an Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady game will look like. That total is in the very low 40s, like barely at 40. I think
After opening
41
up
is
at
what I saw this
47 and
morning.
a half, right? It opened up at 47 and a half, and it's moved 6 points since then. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting. And I know a lot of that has to do, Jared, with injuries. Like Tom Brady is
Yes.
missing a couple of his key pieces. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, talking about David Bakhtiari, other guys on his team. There's a lot of key injuries going on in this game, and I think that's part of the reason why the total has moved. Speaking of line movements, let's get into some intense line movements that we've seen. Philadelphia going up against the Commanders. They were laying 3.5 points when this line opened. Now, certain sports books, they're laying 7, 6.5, depending on where you find it. And I know you're leaning towards the Commanders in this game, but is this an overreaction for the Eagles absolutely steamrolling on Monday Night Football, or what?
I'd say it's more than a lean at this point. I've been ringing the bell for Washington all week. Before we get to this, we've got to mention Justin Herbert because there was some news on him this morning. It looks like the Justin Herbert saga has been fascinating this week. He was practicing earlier in the week, and I made a very foolish wager on Monday thinking that he would play because I saw him out there practicing, and I was like, okay, that's at least he's on the field. That is very positive. So I made the bet on Chargers -7 because I thought, all right, he's going to play, and then we're going to get 7.5, 8, 9 maybe when we get to Sunday. Well, then midweek, he kind of took a U-turn and didn't practice, didn't throw later in the week. I think it was either Thursday or Friday. And the line crashed like a freaking rock from 7 down to 3. Well, now this morning, we're hearing that he's might get a pain injection at that rib. And I don't know if you remember Chargers
It's a Toradol shot. That Toradol shot, it's like, you don't feel anything.
Yes,
for like
but do you remember the
48
last
hours.
time that happened? Tyrod Taylor got a shot, and we haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
So,
but that was okay. But these guys are getting Toradol shots all the time. That was like 1 in a million that happened.
I know,
And
but it's just funny. Like that's just like a joke that people on Twitter are going to make all day. But my point being, all of a sudden we went from Justin Herbert on the field practicing midweek, early week, to then late week not practicing, not going to play. Line moves 4 points in like 30 minutes. Now he might try to play. Now I don't know if that's just trying to throw off the Jaguars defense. I'll be honest, I at this point would be surprised if he played based off of the market move. But to me, Justin Herbert is the biggest catalyst for the market today. That game is later in the day, so sadly you won't be able to set your fantasy lineups accordingly or get your survivor picks in or all that stuff before the games lock at 1 o'clock Eastern. But the Justin Herbert saga today, and I was very fortunate. I came back on Jags +7 before the avalanche came. I just wanted to wash my hands of that game. The lesson here is do not bet on injuries. I made that mistake earlier in the week. It's not going to happen again this year. I got a little wrist slap for it. Luckily, we'll just lose the juice and we'll move on from this game. But the Justin Herbert saga today is I don't know. Like, would you start him? You got the Jaguars today. You should be able to win that game. Would you risk further injury, cracking another rib? Like, the Chargers need Justin Herbert long term a lot more than they need him today.
Is it a cracked rib or is it a hairline fracture? There's a difference between a cracked rib and a hairline fracture. If you have a cracked rib, then yeah, you're not playing. If you have a hairline fracture, shoot that thing up.
I'm not a doctor, so.
Bad boy. Yeah, if it's a hairline fracture, shoot that thing up. Call it a day. Get that Mick rib going. He's a tough cookie.
The Mick rib.
Toradol shots do something special for you. Obviously,
okay.
It's a stressful area. Your lung is right there. We saw what happened to Tyrod Taylor. I don't think that's obviously going to happen to him. That was like a freak accident. We still haven't seen him since then. But that Toradol's great. It's not crap.
You think he's going to play today? If you had to make a bet on Justin Herbert playing today, you seem like you know a lot about this Toradol. You think he's going to play?
Yeah. I actually called him up earlier, and he told me he was playing today, so we're good to go.
This is why we
Just
have Lauren
kidding. No, but honestly, that is something
sources.
To keep an eye on. Toradol is a beautiful thing. Who knows if he's going to get a shot? It also is, who do they play next week? Who do the Chargers play in week 4?
That's a fantastic question. That is a fantastic
because it depends. If next week is going to be a
fantastic question.
If next week's going to be a big matchup for them, then maybe they'll sit him out, give him a week to just rehab that rib. I don't know if you can even rehab.
Chargers at Texans next week. What are the odds? Tyrod Taylor's old team.
So I think he's gonna. Yeah, seriously. Wow, coming full circle now. Jeez.
Full circle.
It's a toss-up for me because it's like not next week isn't like It's not like, hey, the
No.
Texans are really the best team in the NFL. So it's interesting. We'll
And
keep
then
an eye on it as the
2 week
game moves forward.
Chargers
Something you should
at
keep an eye on too.
Browns, which
Yeah,
is Garrett
we'll see. We'll
County.
see what
You would think they
happens.
want him fully
Let's
healthy
move
for
on
that
to
game.
yeah, let's move on to Philadelphia, Washington. We talked about that line movement because we don't know what's going to happen with Justin Herbert. But Philadelphia was laying 7.5 or 3.5. Now they're laying 6.5, 7, depending on which book you're looking at. This is definitely an overreaction though to last week, and the Eagles going nuts on Monday Night Football, and then the Commanders losing to the Lions.
Yeah, this line opened 1 over the summer at Westgate. I'll get into it in more detail in my play of the day. If you read the Pickswise best bets column that I dropped on Thursday, you are very well aware what my best bet is this week. So I won't beleaguer the point too much or belabor the point too much. What does beleaguer the point mean? Is that a word? Beleaguer?
That's definitely not a word. 100% not a word.
Yeah, I totally just made that up. Belabor the point. And we will rewind the clock and get back to that game in my play of the day.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Bucks Packers for a second. This line opened at 3. Now it's moving down to Tampa Bay, laying just a point, almost a pick 'em at this point. He's without Chris Godwin, without Mike Evans in this game. So I feel like that has to be a lot of the reason why this line is moving. Your thoughts on the 2-point line movement?
Yes. I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of bad Tampa Bay injury news plus good Green Bay injury news. Let's take a look and see what the market's saying on this game. It looks like, I had a feeling this game would get good two-way action, and it looks that way right now. Like, I don't really see a sharp or square side here. It's just kind of, decent two-way action, and I think, some of the smarter money has come on Green Bay with their positive injury news, but not an overwhelming amount that I'm going to say this is a square or sharp move on either side. I just think it's the injury news positive for positive for Green Bay, negative for Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, we have Denver taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This is going to be a really interesting game to watch after Nathaniel Hackett hacked up the end of those last 2 games for the Denver Broncos. San Francisco not going to be as bad as people thought with Jimmy G under center, actually maybe better. Trey Lance, wishing the best for him in his recovery in this season and heading into next year. But Jimmy G steps up. He's the guy now for San Francisco. We see this line move. Denver was laying 2.5 when it opened. Now they're laying 1.5, or now San Francisco is laying 1.5. It was a complete line flip at this point. Is that because of Nathaniel Hackett and his lack of being able to play call at the end of fourth quarters? Or is it because, hey, people saw what San Francisco was able to do last week with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm?
Yeah, so the professional, bettors that I, follow and talk to say that it was about a 2-point upgrade for the Niners from Lance to Jimmy G.
Wow.
So you can do the math right there. That about accounts for most of this line move. The other is everyone's betting San Francisco. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone.
And their mothers.
So there's a few games this week that, and I said that at the top of the show, there's 3 or 4 games this week where everyone is betting one side. This is one of them, and it's the Niners. I would raise the banner for Denver here. I would. I mean, we'll get to it in a second when we talk teaser to you. But I think Denver, this is a spot for them. At home, prime time. We've had a couple of data. I can't speak this morning. I'm like, ugh.
I know, it's okay. It's a Sunday. It's early. It's earlier time. You're good. You're good.
Sundays, it's funny. I was telling this to Jacob before the show. I'm usually, I didn't do anything yesterday, but Sundays I'm exhausted. Saturday nights, Sundays. I literally did nothing yesterday all day, but I am exhausted. Anyways,
I know, I'm exhausted too.
Well, you've been traveling. You have a reason to be exhausted. You were also on the sidelines of a college football game yesterday. You're a road warrior. Niners to me is one of those spots where, especially in a primetime game, when you see this, I don't want to call it reverse line movement because there was a legit reason why, pros raised their power ratings on the Niners this week because of the move to Jimmy G. So it's not like reverse line movement, but I do think there is a valid case to say that the Broncos are a very sharp side this week. I love the teaser spot for them, and we can get into that a little later in the show.
Yeah, we're going to get into that later. We're also going to get into Eye of the Beholder in a little bit because we got a lot
Yeah.
of 0-2 teams that people didn't necessarily expect to be 0-2 heading into week 3. We'll get into that in a second. But right now, we got some props. Some props that we're using as presents for us. Let's bring in Prop Holiday, Bobby Stanley, to talk about his favorite props heading into week 3. Bobby Stanley, how the heck are you? Happy Sunday. Happy week 3. How we feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I got my Carhartt shirt on, ready to do some work this Sunday.
Love that.
Ready to work. Get to work.
Ready to work,
Sunday,
baby.
guys.
Let's talk about some of these guys working. Zach Ertz, you think is going to be working that field today? Over 4.5 receptions. Tell me why you like him.
Love this line. So banged up week 1 with a calf injury, but he comes back a little bit healthier in week 2. He ran a route, 92% of dropbacks, saw 84% of the snaps. So he should be close to fully healthy. In that game, he had 11 targets, which is 22% of the share. And this Rams secondary is in flux with injuries. Troy Hill, Kobe Durant, David Long, all expected to be out. Last year against the Rams, Ertz had 7 targets and 5 receptions, and that was with DeAndre Hopkins playing. There's also no Rondale Moore playing today. So I do think he's going to be the number 1 target. It's going to be a high-scoring game. The over-under, I think, is set at 48.5. James Conner is on track to play, but if he's banged up, they may not be able to get the run game going. They have to pass more. So love the line at 4.5 receptions. I'm going over.
I was trying to look this up before we got to this, but I couldn't get there in time. The slot receiver defense for certain teams is a number that I like to look at a lot. I love when you laugh at me when I'm a nerd, Lauren. It makes my day.
It's just like, the slot receiver
nerd
defense
out, man.
on
I'm with
Sunday
you.
when the wind is blowing 14 miles an hour from east to west, and it's so funny. It's just,
I know. I am
love
a
it.
massive nerd. I'm a massive nerd, and I have no shame about it.
Yeah.
But Tyler Boyd in the slot today against the Jets defense talked to me because to me the Jets. If I had to bet on a team that would have poor slot defensive, it would be the Jets. But I don't know that for sure. So tell me about Tyler Boyd's number today.
Hit the nail on the head, my friend. Amari Cooper in week 2 against the Jets, out of the slot, 3 passes for 43 yards. We look at Mark Andrews, week 1, operating out of the slot, 5 catches, 52 yards. Boyd last year against the Jets, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 69 yards. We are eye to eye on this, man. I love the matchup against this Jets secondary for Boyd out of the slot. And this line, I got it at 34.5, and I loved it. It actually went down. It went negative in my favor to 31.5. But it's below his 2021 average yards per game. I think he averaged 51 yards per game. So this game will be surprisingly high scoring, I think, for a Jets-Bengals. I'm going over 34.5 receiving yards on Boyd. You could still get it at 31.5 if you're feeling froggy.
I love these plops, plus money props that you're looking at, especially when it comes to anytime touchdowns. A guy like Michael Pittman Jr. had a touchdown against, I think it was the Texans back in week 2, or week 1, maybe it was week 1 on 9/11? Yeah, week 1. Thank you very much. And you're getting him at plus 170. Tell me, baby, you got two plus money props, 2 plops for today when it comes to the anytime touchdown. Tell me more about him.
It's the only way to bet anytime touchdown scores. If you're not getting that plus money, don't touch it at all. But Michael Pittman, plus 170. Week 1, as you pointed out, Lauren, 9 receptions, 120 yards, 21 yards, and a touchdown. We saw what a big body wide receiver in Mike Williams did to this Chiefs defense on Thursday night. He scored, had a huge game. So week 1 for Pittman, he had 2 red zone targets. And last year, he led the Colts in red zone targets with 17 over the course of the season. So I do think Matt Ryan's going to rely on him to at least keep the defense honest against Jonathan Taylor, so they have a shot today. So Pittman at plus 170, nearly 2-1 for their number 1 wide receiver. I'm all over.
I found it. The Jets have given up the 3rd most receiving yards per game and targets to slot receivers this year. Dolphins and Bills, the only teams that have given up more. Found it. Woo! Okay.
Good job, Jared. Good job.
Yay! Tyler Algier. I used to bet on this dude at BYU all the time. He is a rock star. I don't even know. Full disclosure, I don't even know what team he plays for. So please enlighten me.
He is a rookie running back, for those watching, a rookie running back on the Atlanta Falcons. So he did not play at all in week 1. He gets the first series snaps in week 2 against the Rams. He had 10 rushes for 30 yards. He had 4 red zone rushing attempts. and I'm getting him. I found him at plus 400. I think he's plus 330, plus 350, depending how you shop around. He's going to be, and he actually graded out very favorably in pass protection, which is how you stay on the field in this league.
Absolutely.
On more down. So Tyler Algier at plus 400. Liked what I saw against my Rams. Let's see if he gets some more touches today against Seattle. They're not a great red zone defense. So if they can get into the red zone, I feel good about Algier getting a couple touches.
And going away from taking pieces of the pie, let's talk the whole pie for a second. Full game bets that you have going on into today. One of them, it's going to be a big day for the Raiders and the Titans. The Raiders obviously coming off of that heartbreaking overtime loss, had a run for fumbles. The Cardinals come back, win in overtime. That was a crazy end of the game. Las Vegas fans devastated all over the world, all over the country, and especially at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. And then you look at the Titans. No one expected them to start 0-2 either. Your expectations for this game, because we're going to talk about it in a second, but eye of the beholder. These team seasons are over, basically, if they lose 3 games.
That's the thing. I don't like talking about hyperbole this early. Could it be a must-win game in Week 3 for the Raiders? You cannot fall to 0-3. Definitely not in the AFC West. So when I'm looking at this game, I'll lay the 2 points, Raiders over Titans. There's no Bud Dupree, their best edge rusher. There's no Taylor Lewan, their left tackle. I love that guy. His career, sadly, I think maybe it's coming to an end. The injuries are just
don't say that. He's my Michigan guy.
I love Taylor Lewan. He's one of the best sports personalities out there, busting with the boys. I'm a huge fan of the guy, but I hate seeing him keep getting great. In general, this is a combination thing. It's the Raiders needing to win, and I'm generally just unimpressed with the Titans this season. I was expecting some regression going in. Now, the Bills stomped them, but I don't think that's just the Bills being Bills. It was it was a close game. Week 1 with the Giants, you can make the argument they could have and should have won that game. But this offense cannot play from behind. This Raiders team scored with the Chargers. They scored with the Cardinals. If Tannehill gets behind 1 or 2 scores, I think him and Derrick Henry are done. So I'm going to lay the 2 points with the Raiders on the road.
Wow. That's the game of the day.
I know.
2 versus 0-2. Someone has to win, right? Right? Someone's got to win, you would think. We don't have to talk about the Commanders game too much because I'm going to really belabor that point later. And by the way, there was someone in the chat. Beleaguered is a word. It's just not the right context that I used it in.
I'm going to look it up. What does it mean? Let me see.
It's like a very difficult situation. I think Jalen Hurts might be a little beleaguered today against the Commanders defense. Tell me why, Bobby.
I do like the Commanders plus 6.5. I don't know if Philly can play from behind. They jumped out to a huge lead against Detroit. They jumped out to a huge lead against Minnesota. They have the best rushing attack in the NFL, if not the best rushing attack in the NFL. How does that play when you're down 14 points to the Commanders on the road? 6.5 is just too much. Yes, it's a divisional home underdog, and I didn't even mention the Carson Wentz storyline. But that's kind of it's irrelevant. Let's look at the real stat. Give me the 6.5 with the home divisional dogs, and I'm sure you're going to come with the data and analysis for your pick of the day. But that's my little take on it.
You know me so well.
I will say, the word beleaguer means, I looked at the definition online, it means to trouble persistently from or as if from all sides. That doesn't make sense. I'm like, wait a second, I'm reading the sentence. I'm like, oh, is that a sentence? To disturb by repeated attacks, to annoy, bait, bedevil, beset, harass, or to surround with hostile troops. So you could use that in a football setting of teams
100%.
being beleaguered this week. So you think that the Raiders are going to beleaguer the Titans heading into Week 3?
I do.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Look at us. We're just getting smarter every single day, not only on the betting side of things, but also on our verbiage, etc. Dictionary.com. You'll love to see it. Prop Holiday, we so appreciate you coming on the show. Best of luck with your bets today. Best of luck to your teams. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these games and how they play out.
Happy Sunday, guys. Let's have a day.
Let's have ourselves a day, baby. Let's beleaguer these bets, if you will. Speaking of beleaguering, eye of the beholder. Some of these teams need to beleaguer other teams. How many times can I say that in the show? The limit may not exist.
You're up there right now.
I know. The limit does not exist. Here's the thing. Some of these teams, it's like, there goes your season, right? Winless teams, that need to win. Let's start with the Chiefs, who are taking on the Colts. The Colts right now, no one expected at this point them to be absolutely, I can't even think of a word for it, but they were embarrassed last week by the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were shut out, big goose egg in their scoring column. Now they're going up against Patrick Mahomes and arguably one of the best offenses in the National Football League. For right now, the road team is 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings, and the under has gone 5-1 in their last 6 meetings. What are your expectations? Do the Chiefs take advantage of the Colts, or can the Colts get in the win column for the first time this season, something that they're not used to at this point in the 2022 season?
Yeah, it's worth noting, too, if you're 0-3, it's basically a death sentence to make the playoffs. It's only happened 3% of times, 6 times in the last basically 40 years or so. If you start 0-3, you basically are done. That being said, that is why I think you're seeing, from what I heard from one bookmaker this week, a quote-unquote all-star team of sharp money coming in on the Colts. And it makes sense. If you think about the desperation, if you think about the fact that the Chiefs, while their record is 2-0, that last game against the Chargers was a toss-up. And I think the Colts defense can present similar problems to what the Chargers defense presented for Patrick Mahomes, which was play very physical against Travis Kelce and make Patrick Mahomes dink and dunk down the field. Now, that being said, that's not the style that Gus Bradley's defense likes to play. And I am fascinated to see how that cat and mouse game plays out today. Gus Bradley's defense, so the Colts go from a cover 2 last year, or the last few years with Matt Eberflus. Now they're playing a cover 3. Cover 3 basically just means you're not as deep in the secondary and you get pressure. That's tough because Patrick Mahomes eats against defenses like that. And he had a lot of success last year against Gus Bradley when he was a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. To be fair, the Las Vegas Raiders personnel, I don't think is as strong as the Colts personnel on defense. I think the Colts have some more pieces at corner, especially when you have Gilmore and Kenny Moore both healthy. I want to see Ngakoue play better. I want to see DeForest Buckner play better up front. If all of those things happen, this is a good spot to back the Colts. Again, desperation. They are going to be desperate to get a win at 0-2, while the Chiefs at 2-0 are feeling fat and happy. And again, you want to win every game you play, but I do feel like this is I'm on the Colts. I got 6 earlier in the week. Yeah. I do feel like this is a good spot to back the Colts.
You talk about desperation. The Colts are desperate, playing a team that's maybe not as desperate, but coming in with a lot of confidence. What about this game where both teams are going to be coming out playing with extreme desperation? The Raiders 0-2 after dropping a heartbreaker last week in overtime. I just mentioned that with Prop Holliday on. Hunter Renfrow fumbles. The Cardinals come back. They win in front of the Las Vegas fans. And then you look at the Titans. I mean, they went up against the stone wall that is the Buffalo Bills, the best team in the National Football League this season. Now Buffalo, I know they have a couple injuries this week. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. But Raiders, Titans, both 0-2, both extremely desperate heading into week 3. The favorite, 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 meetings. The Raiders, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 meetings in Tennessee. And the road team is 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 meetings. Who comes out on top of this desperation game?
This is the toughest game, I think, to handicap of the week. And, you know, Bobby likes the Raiders, and I think there's a case to be made for the Raiders for sure. You know, they had the buzz coming into the season. If you ask me which team had more preseason buzz, absolutely Vegas. But I don't fully trust their offensive line to keep Derek Carr upright. That was the problem that they've had. And now they're coming off of a game where they blew a 20-point lead at half. What's their mindset here? I'll share a nugget with you that I didn't know if I was going to share this on the air this week, but I'll share it because let's be honest, information's king. So I live in Vegas now. What a surprise! I'm like Mr. Local.
Oh, no one knew.
But I live in a community. I live in a community that's very close to the Raiders facility. Several members of the Las Vegas Aces live in this community. I was seeing them partying this week. Congratulations to the Aces on their championship. Mm-hmm. But a couple of the practice squad Vegas Raiders also live here. And I was walking Jackpot earlier this week, and I passed one of them in the park complaining about how they were held at practice for 2 hours later this week. All the offensive linemen and all the cornerbacks, defensive backs, were all held at practice a little later this week. So that speaks to the desperation, I think, that we are going to see in this game.
Yeah.
And it's on the other side, too, because the Titans, I think, are, desperate to get off of 0. But what that means from a handicapping standpoint is I don't think this game is going to play true to any percentages or stats or trends or data that we have, because I think teams are going to be desperate to change the vibe. So I don't want anything to do with this game. It doesn't look like it's getting a lot of action on either side. We haven't seen a ton of movement. I haven't seen any sharp bets on either side. To me, this is a stay away game, and we just kind of watch the madness unfold.
Let's talk about your Jets for a second. Going up against the Super Bowl runner-ups in the Cincinnati Bengals. No one thought the Bengals would be 0-2 heading into week 3, and probably no one thought the Jets would have a win in their win column heading into week 3. The Bengals are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 meetings in New York. And the home team is 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 meetings. Joe Burrow needs a win this week. I don't know if it's coming off of that, playing for a long time in the postseason, not having as long of an off season. I don't know what it is with the Cincinnati Bengals right now, but they do not look as sharp as they did last year.
No.
And maybe we're seeing a little bit of regression from this team. Can they get a win here in week 3 in New York, the Big Apple, against your New York Jets?
So the money is saying yes. Everyone's betting the Bengals, but there's been some significant wagers on the Jets, and I think that's noteworthy because usually when you get some big wagers on one side, but all the tickets, the public on the other side, again, this is one of those weeks where there's going to be a lot of gaps in those numbers that are reported. Now, do those always matter? No, of course. Team, the public side wins all the time. The sharp side loses all the time. But I would prefer to not be on the public side every week. That's just the way that I bet. Everyone has different styles. That being said, couldn't pay me with $1 million to bet the Bengals with your money this week. I just don't see a lot of push from their offensive line. Joe Burrow's got one of the highest sack rates in the league. I was trying to find the number really quick, but I couldn't.
Last year too. His O-line wasn't
really
good last year either. Yeah.
No, and they haven't fixed it. So the Jets. Yeah, the Jets' strength is their defensive line. That is the one thing about the Jets that I can say they are above the NFL average in stopping the run and getting after the passer and creating pressure. That's the one thing that they've done well this year. So it's really hard for me to make a case to lay points on the road with a Bengals team that – now, Cincinnati might drop 50 today because Jamar Chase finally wakes up and Burrow finally – figures something out and gets a little continuity with those guys. But I don't want to be the one to try to catch the falling knife. I want to see it with my eyes first. Then I'll bet it later. Even if I miss a point or two on the number, I'm not willing to buy in on the Bengals just yet, even though this is a buy low spot for them. Because I think when this line opened, let me check really quick, it was 7, and now it's significantly lower than that. So I would be very weary laying it with the Bengals today, but I wouldn't be shocked if we got a good performance.
Yeah, I hope we do. I really hope we do. I know you love your Jets. I know you want them to win. But I do hope that we see something from the Bengals because I feel like Joe Burrow's a hard guy to root against, right? You want to see Joe Burrow do well. You want to see that offense do well. Going to be interesting to see how it plays out here week 3. One more game to talk about. Eye of the Beholder. Teams playing with desperation. Let's talk about the Panthers for a second. They're 2.5-point underdogs at this point to the New Orleans Saints. This game for me is going to be extremely interesting. Baker Mayfield hasn't necessarily lived up to the expectations that people thought maybe that he would be having here. The Panthers coming off of 2 losses, one of them last week against the New York Giants, who are now 2-0 heading into week 3, and then a week 1 loss to the Browns, which was supposed to be Baker's revenge game. The Browns got revenge over him. You look at the over, it's 11-5 in their last 16 meetings. The road team 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings. Who wins this game? Does Jameis Winston come in and take advantage of the Panthers, or do the Panthers put on a show in front of their home crowd and maybe put a number 1 in their win column?
I don't have a ton for you on this game, to be perfectly honest. It looks like Winston will play. That's positive. My guess is this line probably gets to 3 by game time. It is it's a 1:00 game, Eastern time. So not a ton of time left. Maybe it doesn't get to 3. Maybe it stays at 2.5. But the total's really low. You could make a case that the Panthers going through 3 and 7 with a low total is a very strong teaser spot. But I might be wrong on this number. I think Carolina's lost 11 straight games. Is that I think
yeah,
that's
they haven't
the
won. They haven't won since week 8 of 2021, I believe. Week 8 or
so
week 9.
it's been a while.
Week 10.
It's been a while.
Week 10 of 2021, they haven't won since. Like, honestly,
Thank
do
you
they even
very
know
much.
what winning is? Do they even know what winning is?
Here's the question that I have. Oh, I just got a great piece of injury news for the Bengals. La'el Collins, their right tackle, is going to play. That's very positive for Joe Burrow.
That's
Good for
big.
Joe Burrow. Because we just talked about their offensive line. Just wanted to get that out there into the universe. That would make me a little more inclined to bet the Bengals today or to bet a Joe Burrow prop. But back to the Panthers. I think we are starting to and I know Nathaniel Hackett's like on the hot seat already, even though it's only been 2 games. I think Matt Rule's on the hotter seat, frankly. I think if I were going to fire a coach and I had to pick one coach in the NFL today, I had to fire one. I think that's the one I would fire.
Thank you. This is what I've been saying since the start of the season. If I could bet on a head coach to be the first fired in the NFL, for me, it would be Matt Rule. Just saying. Just saying.
I agree.
I don't know.
That's really all I have on this game. I didn't bet this game. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10
I thought you had more. I was like waiting for more, Jared.
No, this is one of those games where like I go through my list every week and I put like a little skull emoji next to some of them that I want nothing to do with. This one had like a double skull emoji.
Perfect. I love that. You mentioned Matt Rule maybe being the hottest seat in the house. Well, the second hottest seat, probably Nathaniel Hackett. The Broncos, you like them in a teaser spot today as we get to tough teases to me. You like the Broncos getting plus 7.5.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster teaser ride for me. Week 1, we gave out 3 teaser legs. We kind of mixed and matched them together. We did 2 separate teasers. We hit all 3 teaser legs easily. We had 2 of those dogs went out right, and we were feeling really fat and happy with our teasers.
Yeah.
We go into week 2. We give out teaser legs. We tease some favorites down. They lose outright. Browns get their pants pulled down by the Jets in the last 2 minutes, and the Bengals go into Dallas and lose. And then our other teaser leg, the Saints. That game was 3-3 in the third quarter, and then all of a sudden Tom Brady and Mike Evans decided to punch his way back into the win column there.
Literally,
and the Saints lose by 10, and we lose. So we went 3-0 in teaser legs week 1, 0-3 in week 2. Here's the lesson: let's try to narrow our focus a little bit. Let's try to pick our top 2 teaser legs, and let's just bet 1 teaser, and let's try to get back on a positive track. So I already gave you the Broncos. I do think Hackett I think people need to relax with Nathaniel Hackett getting fired. Like, it's been 2 games, people. And one of those games was in a hostile environment in Seattle with his quarterback playing like the ultimate drama revenge game. Let's see how things play out over the next few weeks when the offense starts. Jerry Jeudy's back today. Let's see if things start to move in a positive direction. I know NFL stands for not for long, but let's not fire Nathaniel Hackett less than 1 month into his regime. Let's relax, people, okay?
I will say, though, Jared, being a Broncos fan, obviously living there for 3 years, like, some of that play calling that he had at the end of the game, that is unacceptable for a head coach of a National Football League team. Unacceptable. I could have called that game better in the fourth quarter.
It looked bad. I think the one pushback I have, though, about that is it was his second game as a head coach.
Yeah.
Like, we have to give him at least a month before we start. Now, I agree. It has to improve. And if it doesn't improve, by Halloween, we can be putting on our Freddy Krueger masks and try to stab Nathaniel Hackett in the back. But I think for now, let's give him at least the benefit of the doubt that he's a little overwhelmed in a new system with a new quarterback. And there's a lot of – and I expect there to be some positive regression there. Let's see. And I think it's a really good teaser spot through 3 and 7. Even if they don't win the game tonight, I think the Broncos at home, they were a favorite last week. And now I'm getting them through a full touchdown at home in a low total game. I think it's the best teaser spot of the week. The second teaser spot I really like is the Packers. Now, if it's 1 and you're only going from 1 to 7, it's not as impactful as I got 2 earlier in the week from 2 to 8. 1.5 to 7.5 is also fine for obvious reasons. You want it through that key number of 7. But that being said, another very low total game with a quarterback that I trust against an offense that has some major problems in the Bucs. So I don't see the Bucs just like stretching their legs and blowing out this Packers team. I see that being a very nip and tuck game. So this is my teaser of the week. Packers +8, Broncos +7.5. I feel like we're going to be live going into that Sunday night game.
I'm excited. All right. I know we have some best bets that we want to get into, but first of all, Superbook Sports is the sponsor of Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com or download the app today. This season, Gerard, we are rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season, okay? Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total in the NFL, and there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday. You get a $50 bonus. That's right, $50. 50, big ones, 50. Lay it on them. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. We all love a good safety, Gerard, so we're rooting for him this season. $50 bonus. Why the heck not? Do it. Superbook.com. Sign on up. All right. Before we get into our best bets of the day, because I'm really interested to see why you like the Commanders getting the points. I know Prop Holliday talked about it a little bit. Let's go to Pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day. Who do we got on the website?
Oh man, we got an all-star lineup here. AO, Caleb Wilfinger, Keith Smelter, Ricky Diamond, all chiming in. I'll be honest, I don't even want to give you the games. I'll just tell you the cappers' names, and I'm telling you, you want to go check out these picks. That's really all I got for you. 4 NFL. Now, I'm on there too. I've got my 3-star play on there as well, but we're going to get to that in a second. But all 4 of them, the 4 horsemen, Diamond, Schmelter, Wilfinger, Ortenberg. Go check it out. Pickswise.com. Roll call.
Speaking of 3-star. Roll call. Speaking of 3-star play of the days, you are 2-0 on your NFL 3-star plays.
I am.
Let's make it 3-0 this week, baby. You, the Giants. Who else is going to go 3-0 this week? We'll see. Let's hear it.
Chiefs,
who do you
baby.
like for your 3-star play?
I hope it's not the Eagles 3-0. I hope the Eagles fall to 2-1. Listen, we've beat this handicap up this week. I gave it out on every show that we've done. Pickswise Playbook. Obviously, it's a 3-star play on the site. So I'm not going to belabor the point too much. But what I will tell you is that this Eagles defense has shown some flaws. And as good as Jalen Hurts has looked, listen, Jalen Hurts can wreck this for me today. Jalen Hurts can put on his MVP hat and just slice and dice his way through this Commanders defense, and he can make my bet look very foolish and make me look like a dunce for even thinking about betting on the Commanders. But I like to bet on regression. I like to buy low, and I like to sell high, and I'm selling high on Philly today. I got a very good number early in the week at 7. That number's not available now. I would still bet this at 6.5. The only difference is I would push and you would lose. I wouldn't consider that a win for me. So I would absolutely still bet this at 6.5. But I think this Eagles defense has some problems. They right now are grading out as the worst tackling unit in the league through 2 weeks. They're a bottom 10 unit in rush defense efficiency. That's very good news for a Commanders offense, I think, that has a little oomph to him. Carson Wentz, you've got Curtis Samuel in the slot, you've got Dotson on the outside, you've got McLaurin on the other outside, you've got Antonio Gibson, who I think is a very physical back that can create a lot of problems in the middle for this Washington team. And I think overall there are some pieces to like about what Washington's done on offense this year. Carson Wentz is very volatile. There's no denying he could throw 4 picks in this game, just like Cousins did on Monday night. But one less day to prepare going on the road in the division. Jalen Hurts has failed to cover all 4 times he's gone on the road in the NFC East. He's only 4-7 ATS on the road. His completion percentage drops. His yards per attempt drops. The efficiency ratings drop on the road. Makes sense. Young quarterback, hasn't really put the polish on his game just yet. And everything has been roses for Hurts so far this year. The NFL isn't that easy. There's going to be some drawback. And I like this spot for Washington to at least keep this close. So they win the game, who cares? We're catching a full
Mm-hmm.
touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Have this game close. Let's say 23-20 Philly, and we get to the window 3-0 for our 3-star plays in the NFL so far. But I do like the Commanders to keep it tight at home today against the Eagles.
The Manders, baby. You love it. You're not going to what was the word? You're hoping that the Commanders beleaguer the Eagles heading into today. You're not going to belabor the point, but you're hoping for a little beleaguering when it comes to the Commanders going up against the Eagles. All right, my best bet of the day, which I'm excited. I think this is going to be an absolute fire game. I am pumped. I want to see a lot of points scored. I want to see a lot of offense. It is the Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Bills, obviously 2-0 on the season. They are the best National Football League, in my opinion. The Dolphins, though, coming off of a massive win last week. Tua threw 6 touchdowns. But I like the Bills laying the 4.5 points here at -115. The Bills are a dominant force. That's why they're favored to win the Super Bowl. That's why they're favored to win the whole thing. Here's a couple reasons why this bet makes me nervous, and then I'm going to go into why I really am betting it and why I like it. Miami is 13-4 against the spread at home as an underdog. That's the best against the spread record in the NFL over the last 2 years. But this is a letdown spot for a guy like Tua, right? We saw what his ceiling was last week. 6 touchdowns, 469 yards, massive comeback win against the Ravens. Tyreek Hill went off. It was fun to watch. Waddle went off. He has some really, really great pieces around him. I don't think Miami's defense is going to be able to hold up against a guy like Josh Allen. They allowed Lamar Jackson to throw over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't have a single pick against him. Josh Allen is going to be able to take advantage of their secondary in a game like this. And don't even get me started on the Bills defense. I know they're missing a couple pieces, injury troubles plaguing them at this point. Their starting secondary now only has 3 combined NFL starts. Also, the Bills have never played a game without Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde in the McDermott era. But, Jared, this is the reason why they signed a guy like Von Miller, right? He had 2 sacks against the Rams. He was consistently pressuring the Titans. I feel like Von Miller, veteran experience, he could be a good driving force for that unit. And the Bills still have Josh Allen. Enough said. And the Dolphins are a little beat up too, right? Byron Jones is out. Xavier Howard has a groin injury, I think. I think Stephon Diggs, this could be a good spot for him to take advantage of them. So I know that this line moved a little bit. I think it was like 7 or 6.5 a little earlier in the week. It's now 4.5. I know they're missing some big pieces on defense. You still got Von Miller and you still got Josh Allen. That's enough for me to be able to bet the Bills. And this is a letdown spot for a team like Miami and Tua, because Tua ain't throwing for 6 touchdowns every single week, especially against an experienced Buffalo Bills defense that even without a couple players, they're still one of the best defenses, in my opinion, in the National Football League. So give me the Bills. Let's lay the points, baby. 3-0 to start the season for my boy, Josh Allen. Let's go. Lock it up. Lock it in. Week 3, I'm so excited. Gerard Smith, Laurent Jabara. That's it for us today, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll recap all Sunday, week 3, and then we'll have Monday Night Football for you tomorrow as well. So make sure to tune in. Best of luck with your bets today, guys. Let's get it. Let's bet it.